Oh boy, big Epstein files updates. Things are getting real crazy as the House tries to make a move to hold a vote that will decide the undeniable and hopefully unvetoable release of the full Epstein files, as we have been begging for quite some time now. And man, things have gotten crazy. I cannot emphasize enough how wild they've gotten. For instance, Boebert is yelling at Republicans on the House floor after failing to censure the Democrat Plaskett, a representative from the U.S. Virgin Islands, who did in fact speak with Epstein briefly, and that is sus as fuck and maybe should be investigated considering her office. But the Republicans want to censure her with no due process, no investigation, nothing, and they wanted to make that part of the conditions to pass the bill to vote to release the Epstein files. This failed, and Boebert is mad. On top of that, some prison staff who have leaked information about Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's preferential treatment in prison, at Trump's hand, mind you, have been fired for leaking said information to keep things silent, and Congress has finally voted to send the Epstein files bill to Trump himself, meaning that it will be up to him to veto it and disallow the Epstein files to be released in their unredacted state. That's probably what he's going to do, and then he's going to try to have Pam Bondi release the redacted version where his name is censored out. I don't think people are going to buy that version when Trump himself vetoes this version from getting released that isn't redacted. But hey, Representative Lauren Boebert, Republican from Colorado, yelled and wagged her finger at her Republican colleagues on the House floor Tuesday night after the chamber rejected a resolution to censor Delegate Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands with the help of a handful of Republicans. The GOP failure to censure Plaskett, in turn, led to Democrats declining to pursue a censure of Representative Corey Mills, a Republican from Florida. The resolution to censure Plaskett and remove her from the House Intelligence Committee over recently released documents that show that she had consulted with Jeffrey Epstein during a 2019 hearing failed in a 209 to 214 to 3 vote. 3 Republicans, Don Bacon, Lance Gooden, and Dave Joyce, voted no, along with all the Democrats. 3 other Republicans voted present: Andrew Garbarino, Dan Muser, and Jay Obernolt. Man, those guys must be rhinos or something, because that was their opportunity to vote yes on censuring a Democrat off of a committee that's actively threatening Trump's entire reputation. But then again, a lot of Republicans are starting to jump ship off all that. They don't want anything to do with the sinking ship that is Donald Trump. So that was crazy. We actually watched that live yesterday. I don't know if any of you guys were here for it, but we watched that big hearing to decide whether or not they would censure Plaskett and basically kick her off of the Oversight Committee. They had that whole discussion. We covered that, and I'm glad to know it did end up failing, because we watched like an hour of that, and it did not go anywhere fast, let me tell you. It did not go anywhere fast. But hey, before we get any deeper into this topic, make sure you leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and hype the video if you want to see more from me and you want to boost the video on the channel, and comment down below release the files if you want to help boost the video, and let me know to cover more of the Epstein files stuff, because I definitely see that sometimes you guys really come in to watch the Epstein related stuff, sometimes you don't, so it's hard for me to tell if you guys are that interested in it. So, you know, make it clear whether or not you're interested in certain topics down below with the likes and the comments. That is your best tool to do so. Moving on though, how many of you guys heard about this story? This one's wild. Prison staff who leaked information about Maxwell's preferential treatment have been fired, lawyer says. Prison staff who leaked information about Ghislaine Maxwell's preferential treatment have been fired, a lawyer for the convicted sex trafficker said. Maxwell, a long-term associate of the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, was moved to a minimum security prison known as Camp Bryan after meeting with the Justice Department earlier this year. Very not suspicious at all, and not evil in the slightest. The DOJ interview followed backlash against the Trump administration for its handling of government files related to Epstein. One of Maxwell's lawyers, Leah Safian, released a statement Friday saying that employees at Camp Bryan have been terminated for improper, unauthorized access to an email system that allows prison inmates to communicate with the outside world following a leak of Maxwell's privileged client-attorney email correspondence. That's right, Ghislaine Maxwell is in such a low-security prison, she has internet access to the outside world. And she was given a puppy. I'm not joking, they gave her a puppy. They gave her an emotional support puppy. Last weekend, new details about Maxwell's conditions at Camp Bryan came to light. Democrat Jamie Raskin, the ranking member on the House Judiciary Committee, wrote a letter to President Donald Trump in light of troubling recent developments in the case of Ghislaine Maxwell. Raskin detailed the concierge-style treatment Maxwell was receiving, citing information received by Democratic committee staffers. This treatment included customized meals hand-delivered to Maxwell, a service dog in training to play with, and Warden Tanisha Hall being used as her personal secretary when reviewing and editing documents. She is basically living it up better than Andy Dufresne was when he was like at the top of the world, doing, like, helping the prison warden evade taxes. The congressman also said, based on the information staffers received, that Maxwell was in the process of filing a commutation application with the Trump administration. Maxwell is serving a 20-year prison sentence for her role in a decade-long scheme to sexually exploit and abuse minor girls with Epstein. Decade-long? I thought it was 2 decades at least. Raskin's letter came shortly after the media released private emails from Maxwell. NBC News shared those emails, which were originally obtained by the House Judiciary Committee. So she is actively writing and filling out documents to have her, not only is she in, like, luxury prison, but she's actively moving to have her sentence shortened substantially so she can be released way sooner. It is very likely that before Trump is out of office, Ghislaine Maxwell will be out of prison. In one email, Maxwell wrote to a relative about Camp Bryan, "It is a well-managed, well-run institution with an excellent warden who leads from the top. The food is legions better. The place is clean. The staff responsive and polite. In other words, I feel like I have dropped through Alice in Wonderland's looking glass. I am much happier here, and more importantly, safer," Maxwell wrote. In another email Maxwell sent to her attorney, she explained a workaround she and the warden came up with to expedite her court documents. "I spoke to the warden about the problem with the mail. I explained that we have a deadline that hinges on the Supreme Court, and that I was hoping to have 2 turns of the document before it files with the court, possibly as soon as at the end of the month. Her creative solution was that you scan it to her, and she will scan back my changes. Of course, that is fantastic as it saves days and days." Maxwell's lawyer said in Friday's statement, "It is clear that no effort to fact-check the credibility or veracity of the so-called whistleblower was made by the representative or his offices." Safian also said Maxwell was not requested a commutation, or has not requested a commutation, or made a pardon application, as she is preparing a habeas petition with a federal New York court related to prisoners' rights and conviction challenges. The attorney claims that the new petition shares evidence not available at her 2021 trial. When asked if she has ruled out a pardon for Maxwell, Trump told reporters on Air Force One Friday night, "I haven't even thought about it. I haven't thought about it for months. Maybe I haven't thought about it at all." I doubt she would get pardoned, though, because apparently you can't be incriminated by anything you say, and yeah, I guess she might end up just outing Trump anyway. You're right. Although isn't she in prison on state charges? I don't think Trump would be able to pardon her anyway, or at least in a way that would have any impact. That's updates on how Donald Trump's administration is helping Ghislaine Maxwell get away with it, get, cushier digs, and to get out of prison as soon as possible for all that sex trafficking of children. Very moral administration we're living under right now. The right are the right side of history, clearly. But with that aside, here's the biggest story of the day. This was actually posted an hour ago, by the way. I'm really on top of the news with this one. Congress votes to send the Epstein files bill to Trump. That's right. It's going to be on Trump's desk now. And if we don't get the Epstein files, then everyone will know it's because Donald Trump didn't want to release them. If he had just said yes, we'd get them. The U.S. Congress has passed a measure ordering the U.S. Justice Department to release its files on late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Senate sent the bill to President Donald Trump's desk to sign into law a day after the House of Representatives approved it in a 427-1 vote. Trump has said he will sign the measure after abruptly reversing course on Sunday and urging fellow Republicans to support disclosure of the records as a backbench revolt brewed among rank-and-file members who demanded transparency. The Epstein files are documents from criminal investigations into the financier, including transcripts of interviews with victims and witnesses, and items seized in the raid of his properties. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said on Wednesday morning, when asked about the Epstein files during an unrelated news conference, "We'll continue to follow the law with maximum transparency while protecting victims." It came a day after survivors of Epstein spoke in support of the measure at the U.S. Capitol. One of them said they had suffered institutional betrayal for years. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told CNN that he expected the upper chamber to receive the bill from the lower one on Wednesday morning, after which the bill would be passed and then sent to Trump for the presidential signature. Imagine he uses an auto pen. Trump said the timing did not matter to him and has continued to cast the issues as a distraction.
I just don't want Republicans to take their eyes off of the victories that we've had,
he wrote in a social media post late on Tuesday afternoon. Trump's own historical relationship with Epstein has again been the subject of recent headlines after U.S. lawmakers released more than 20,000 pages of documents from Epstein's estate, including some that mention Trump and other prominent figures without indicating any wrongdoing by those individuals. Trump's reversal at the weekend from attacking those on Capitol Hill who wanted the files released to saying that there was nothing to hide surprised some in Washington. The Republican congressional leadership was caught off guard after aligning their message with the president for the past few weeks and opposing the release of the files. Really curious to see if Donald Trump's actions align with his words about wanting to release them now, when this ends up on his desk. House Speaker Mike Johnson had repeatedly called the push to release the Epstein files a Democrat hoax, but on Tuesday, he voted in support of release. Republican Clay Higgins of Louisiana was the only lawmaker to vote against the bill and cited his concern about innocent people being hurt with the release of the information. The measure had been expected to take a few days to reach the U.S. Senate, but after the resounding afternoon vote in the House, the timeline quickly spread up. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer brought up the bill on the floor of the Senate under a procedure called unanimous consent. Because no one objected, there was no debate and no amendments added to the bill. A congressional vote was not required to release the files. Trump could have ordered the release on his own. The bill requires Attorney General Pam Bondi to release all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials related to Epstein and his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, no later than 30 days after the law is enacted. Those materials include internal Justice Department communications, flight logs, and people and entities connected to Epstein. Guys, I swear I'm not on the Epstein list. But there are obstacles to the files being released, even if Trump signs the bill, as he has said he will do. For example, the bill gives Bondi the power to withhold information that would jeopardize any active federal investigation or identifies any victims. Trump recently asked the Justice Department to investigate Epstein's alleged links to major banks and several prominent Democrats. Epstein was found dead in his New York prison cell in 2019, and what a coroner ruled was a suicide. He was being held on charges of sex trafficking, having previously been convicted of soliciting prostitution from a minor in 2008. During 2 criminal investigations into Epstein, thousands of documents were gathered, including transcripts of interviews with victims and witnesses. Trump and Epstein previously socialized in similar circles, but the president has repeatedly said he cut ties with Epstein many years ago, before Epstein's 2008 conviction. The president also said he was unaware of Epstein's criminal activity. Last week, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee published 3 email chains, including correspondence between Epstein and Maxwell, who is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence for sex trafficking. Some of those make mention of Trump and other prominent figures. In one email, sent in 2011, Epstein wrote to Maxwell, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump." Victim, Virginia Giuffre, spent hours at my house with him. The White House said last week that the victim referenced in the email was prominent Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre. Okay, why'd they put... Okay. Giuffre, who died in April, said that she never saw Trump participate in any abuse and there is no implication of any wrongdoing by Trump or other high-profile figures mentioned in said emails. Speaking after the vote, Giuffre's brother, Sky Roberts, praised her sister's role in praised his sister's role in seeking justice for Epstein survivors. She did it. She paved the way. She paved the way for us to come forward as advocates for her survivor sisters to come forward, and we won't stop, Roberts said. Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the emails were selectively leaked by House Democrats to liberal media to create a fake narrative to smear our beloved president. The push for the release of the investigative files held by the Department of Justice was led by Republican Thomas Massie, a Kentucky congressman who sometimes dissents from his party, and Democrat Ro Khanna, a California congressman, both of whom introduced the legislation. Massie has faced criticism from Trump for his push to release the files, but has stood firm. In 2030, he's not going to be the president, Massie said to ABC News over the weekend. He added that fellow Republicans who voted against release will have voted to protect pedophiles. Another Republican who has pushed for the release of the files is House Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She had been a staunch supporter of Trump before the two fell out over the issue, with the president now calling her a traitor. At a news conference earlier in the day on Tuesday, Greene said she was speaking up on behalf of Epstein's survivors.
Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing in front behind me,
Green said. I don't disagree with Green here, but, I gotta do the voice. She said that the row over Epstein has been
one of the most destructive things
to Trump's Make America Great Again movement since his election in 2016. Survivors of Epstein's abuse also spoke at the news conference, urging lawmakers to release the files and pushing Trump to do the same. Epstein survivor Annie Farmer said that keeping the files under wraps amounted to institutional betrayal. Because of these crimes were not properly investigated, so many more girls and women were harmed, Miss Farmer said. And that is more or less the news. The Epstein files, or the bill to force the release of the Epstein files within 30 days, is going to be on Trump's desk shortly. Will he sign it? I think he probably will, but keep in mind, Pam Bondi very well may Control-F Donald Trump and censor his name in every occurrence in the files, and might even Control-F Bill Clinton and every other Democrat and highlight them. You know what I mean? Like, who knows what form we're going to get the files in. I'm really curious to see how this ends up going, because if it's in any way censored, I feel like that looks bad for Trump. But then again, if he's not visibly in the files, but there is a block of black that's roughly the length of Donald Trump's name, I mean, his supporters will be able to make excuses. They'll be able to say it could be anybody, right? So, we'll have to wait and see how this ends up going. Like I said, if you like this video and you like my stuff and you want to support it, you want to see more from me, leave a like, a comment, and hype the video if YouTube lets you, as it really does help a lot. And comment down below, release the files to let me know, well, first it helps the video, but also it lets me know you guys want to see me cover more of this Epstein files stuff as it kind of rolls out as we get more news. So you let me know down below, and I hope you do enjoy this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.